to 10 a.m. on Salam Media.
Right, let's wrap up the show with a conversation with Qarie Yaeesh Ali. In fact, we chatted, I think, last year about his recitation of Ar-Rahman. I'm just going back to what happened a year ago. So much has changes over that period. So he's not in Johannesburg, he's not in South Africa. In fact, he's in Beirut in Lebanon. So let's find out why. We do know there's been a link up with the African Muslims Agency in the work that he's been doing there right away. So Qarie Yaeesh Ali, assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah for having me on the show.
Thank you. Right. So why Lebanon? Where, I mean, you're in Beirut now. What have you been doing for the last 2 weeks?
Well, we've been performing Taraweeh in the refugee camps and creating awareness around the refugees that are living in the tents, and trying to support the initiatives on the ground with AMA. So Alhamdulillah, the suggestion of reading Taraweeh in the refugee camps came last year from a colleague of mine, Maulana Abdurrahman Lady, and he was like, next year we read Taraweeh Salah in the refugee camps in Malawi or Lebanon, whichever one is possible. And then,
So I'm gonna message Maulana Laili to say Qarie Yaeesh is at a refugee camp, but you're actually in Johannesburg. So what has happened to you? Let's see. So that was the suggestion. It came from there, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, correct.
Okay.
And
And why then Lebanon? Finally, what was the process? I know you do a lot of work with the AMA. What is the process to be in Lebanon and not anywhere else?
well, obviously we had the option that came through was for Lebanon, the to the masjids, I mean, with the shuyukh, and to read in the refugee camps in Lebanon. The suggestion was to read 2 weeks in Lebanon and then 2 weeks in Malawi. And I was like, I want to do it all, but I can only do one. So let's just prioritize for now. And inshallah, maybe if Allah gives us life, then we'll do Malawi afterwards, the following year or something like that. And they were like, okay, let's do Lebanon. Lebanon is in a real bind at the moment, and the need is great on the ground. So might be the impact from the Taraweeh will create awareness around the refugees and the need. So alhamdulillah, that's how we ended up in Lebanon.
Okay, so when you talk about refugees, you probably use the word 3-4 times. So I'm assuming people know, but not everybody knows. Which refugees are you talking about? Which camp are you at?
So there's various refugees. Well, there's two groups of refugees, Syrian and Palestinian, and there are a lot of camps in and around Lebanon. So obviously these camps are based in Beirut itself, and then there's camps in the north, and then there's camps, closer to the Syrian borders. And obviously these people are they in this position due to the war that obviously has taken place in Syria, so they cannot return back home. So there are many camps, and from these two groups, I mean, there's from the Palestinians. I mean, they are a group from amongst them that are here for decades, and I mean, there's like 2 and 3 generations that are living in Lebanon for over this period of time. But they are still refugees within this country. They are still refugees. Both the Syrians and the Palestinian are recognized as refugees, and there's limitations to what and how they can do and achieve things. So their status is refugees, and they live like refugees because they get very little support from the actual Lebanese government.
Yeah, I think it's a horrific situation and without even getting into the whole. On the one hand, the Israeli impact of ensuring that these Palestinians are refugees on the one hand, then as you said, the wars in Syria and how that impacts them. But I think to live in a tent for 10 years, 20 years, for generations, as that's your permanent home, I think for many of us is unthinkable, right? So the performing of Taraweeh in this camp, right? And I've watched a few of them, right? And enjoyed your recitation, alhamdulillah. So how many people attends? And you also made the point, often you spoke about the impact you'd like to make. So how many attends, and what impact has it made?
Alhamdulillah. Firstly, it's very strange for them that Sheikh or some reciter is coming from South Africa, or out of all the places that people could come from. Because as you know, they're Arab, and I mean, the Quran is their language, and it's very foreign that a foreigner who's not literate, or is not born Arab, is coming from another country, is predominantly known to recite the Quran and not understand it, and come to their refugee camps to recite Taraweeh. Alhamdulillah, I can tell you, the attendance, it varied. I mean, there were those that was like, Alhamdulillah, the entire masjid was full, and there was somewhere there was half of the masjid, and somewhere it was 4 and 5 sufuf. But and one of the very surprising things to the Lebanese was that we were going to be reciting, and we recited 20 rak'ah, So they were like, 20 rak'ah, you sure? I was like, yeah, 100%. And they were like, and you're going to be reading the entire Quran? I was like, yeah, yeah, 100. Because they see the refugee camps, after a certain time, they're not allowed to go out to the actual masjids. You have to stay in the
Okay.
refugee camp. And I mean, that's a challenge. And then there's like there's no real sheikhs, like people who have actually qualified in a formal jamia as per se to lead them. So they were very appreciative, alhamdulillah.
Okay, well, that's I'm so glad that's the case, right? So in that case, I mean, I would think the impact will be twofold. One is to create awareness of the plight of these refugees, as you've just done, right, by us talking and by your Taraweeh. But the other is to impact on these refugees who are Muslim, and perhaps encourage them, give them words of encouragement, but also encourage them even in the most difficult of circumstances to try and, if I can say, raise their game, however that's going to be, right?
Yes, yes, I can tell you one thing, even amongst the adults and especially amongst the children, they kept on asking the question, "Anta hafid al-Quran al-ghaib?" Like, you know the whole Quran by heart, like the entire thing without looking inside? And I was like, yes. And they were like, it's unbelievable. But they all know a portion of the Quran, but not the entire thing, obviously. And because they're living in tents and they're living in this dire situation, and it was so encouraging for them, like especially the children, and they were like, I'm going to learn, I'm going to learn, I'm going to become hafiz. I also want to read the Taraweeh Salah. And I can tell you that's a very humbling experience, very, very
I'm
humbling
I'm
experience.
I'm I'm sure of that. Yeah. What's it been like for you? I mean, just as an imam, I mean, reciting the Quran, and having stood behind you, that's not different. But reciting in this different environment where everything's unusual, and obviously it's not as comfy as you would expect in many of the masjids in South Africa. What's the experience been like for you?
Alhamdulillah, I cannot complain. I mean, the schedule was a bit tight because you moving from one camp to the next camp, and you obviously have an iftar, and it's there's a bit of a distance between the camps. So I mean, that was a bit of an adjustment. And obviously there was the stress of reading the Quran, I mean, and reciting the Quran as an imam, having these people follow who understand it, and many of them are quite literate and quite educated in regards to how the Quran is supposed to be recited. So it was a bit daunting, the pressure that I might get critiqued quite a bit, because
And did you get critiqued? I mean, did you get critiqued on pronunciation and corrections and things like that?
some of it, yes, yes, it was so. It was it was a moving experience, and an experience of growth. Alhamdulillah, for me, I hope so. I mean, they said, your pronunciation of this is not 100%. You need to focus a bit more on this. And I was like, okay, thank you, thank you.
Oh
I
goodness,
would then go back and say, how's it now? And they would be like, yeah, yeah, that's right now. That's good. That's good.
yeah, and obviously, I mean, the other part is if you read the 20 rakah that makes up the Taraweeh by yourself as the only imam, and I mean, most of the mosques in South Africa, they would break it down with at least three imams, sometimes two
Yeah.
imams. It just means the level of your preparation of revision before you recite is just it's just manifold. It's just much larger and so much more intense, right?
Yes, so I must mention and acknowledge that a lot of the scholars in South Africa, in most of the masajid, are more than capable of reciting the entire 20 rak'ah, and it's their wish to do so. But obviously, the musalla has to be shared like it is throughout the year, because of the responsibilities that are shared between various imams. So I know from my previous experiences, most of the imams that I recited Tarawih with were quite capable of reciting the entire 20 rak'ah. Um, I can tell you this though, that it took a year of preparation for myself to be able to recite the Taraweeh alone, the full Quran, 20 rak'ah. And Alhamdulillah, by Allah's karama, would recite a few hours every day, the entire year. And obviously, I took a page out of the book again of a good colleague of mine, Walana Abdul Rahman Ali, who has, Allah has really blessed him with the hypes of the Quran. He's got such a strong mind. He recites sometimes five to several khatams in Ramadan. And I thought to myself, that is the standard that the Quran is to be at for every hafid of the Quran, that you are able to recite the entire Quran at any given time. And this would be the benchmark. This would be the point. I need to do this so that my responsibility and commitment with the Quran is 100%. So Alhamdulillah, for me, it's just been an amazing experience, and to be able to learn and to be committed to such a thing, Alhamdulillah, has been a blessing for me.
Well, I mean, from where I sit, besides being a Muslim and a Musalli, in terms of the Champion South Africa project that I drive and head, we often look out for champions. So my role is to do some champion spotting, and in a strange way, just talking to you is a form of champion spotting, and you relating uh, the the model of Abdurrahman, Maulana Abdurrahman Laili is in fact you champion spotting his role as championing the preparation that's correct for the for Ramadan, for performing the Tarawih. So it's like win-win-win all around. Alhamdulillah, right? Perhaps as we wrap up, are there maybe just I love storytelling. Are there one or two stories that you can share with us besides fronting up as the Imam when you were in camp?
Oh yeah, there were so many stories, so many stories. I would think the thing that the from the various interactions that I've had, the ones that were most heartbreaking was those people, those Muslim women actually that were very elderly, whose husbands had passed away, and they had very elderly children that were challenged or paralyzed and sick, or mentally challenged, or whatever it was in that way, and they were old enough to be my grandmothers, not one, not two, but at least like half a dozen that I met, and there were many others, and they were looking after their children, and there was nobody to work in that home or bring anything back home. And then you meet them and you ask them how's everything, and the first response they have is Alhamdulillah, everything's amazing. But you can see everything is not amazing. But they're being sincere and genuine. And when you ask them, what are you grateful for? Then they would say, I'm grateful that Allah has given me health and given me life. But they're living in
Yeah,
this hut and it's freezing cold. And there's genuinely no food, no medicine, there's nothing in that house. And I mean, that, was a point of stopping and just recognizing, as bad as things might be back home, we still live the life of kings. As challenging as it might be with power, power outages and whatever it is, and sometimes security concerns, we still have really, really good lives, and we have so much to be appreciative for. That was the one. And the second is when you meet these small little kids. I mean, they've grown up, they're born in these camps, they know nothing else. When you ask them, what are your hopes and your dreams? And then they respond with anything, because I know nothing. And they really
yeah,
mean it.
wow,
Anything is like anything, meaning my wishes, if I had a shoe, because I mean, they're wearing the sandal that they've outgrown for might be 4 years and 5 years. Or I would like to taste what meat tastes like. It sounds crazy, but it's the truth. Or I'd like to have bread in the month of Ramadan, or might be some yogurt. Or I'd like to go to school. I'd like to get a formal education. And then you're like, whoa, Allahu Akbar.
yeah,
Aside from their circumstance, I mean, again, our kids have it all, and they have so much to be grateful for. And we might think, oh, I don't have hundreds of thousands of rands to contribute to help them. I don't have million. I'm not a millionaire. I can't help change their life. I can't make a difference. But that's wrong. Things are not that expensive here. 100 rand goes a long way. It feeds that family, might be for like a couple of days. So like I was ready to give everything. I was like, yeah, take my clothes, take everything I have, just live better lives and have something, take something. Like, you wanna do something for, you wanna do everything for everyone.
Mm, mm,
So the need is that great. So obviously from those interactions, it moves you. It moves you to be appreciative for what you have, and to also at the same time understand that, yeah, I have a responsibility. Yeah, I need to do something, anything.
But I think that's the point. Once you have gifts that are given to you, and I'm sort of quoting a surah from the Quran that you love, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, which are the favors of your Lord do you deny? So once you have those favors and those gifts, even in other things, what do you do with those gifts? And I mean, your point is absolutely valid. Maybe just two things before I let you go. And therefore, the role of the AMA is a good example of having been bestowed with gifts in South Africa. The African
Yes.
Muslim Agency's role, not just in the Lebanese camps, but worldwide, throughout Africa and South Africa, they have been able to utilize themselves and their role to provide and to basically lessen the burden of thousands of people, if not millions, around the continent and the world, right?
Correct, correct. And I think there's definitely an appreciation to what's been done on the ground as opposed to what we see on TV or their adverts or social media. It's very different. And when you see where they're actually going and what's being done and how many lives are being affected and improved, then you start to appreciate, whoa, you guys, you're not. So it's one thing, obviously, for the donors, and I mean, Alhamdulillah, we need the donors to donate to help and assist. But it's another thing to just work 24/7, around the clock, 7 days a week. It's not work. It's humanitarian work. For these people, it's like I don't know how they manage their personal lives, because 24/7 they listening with all their heart. I mean, with all their might, trying to make some difference to respond to the need on the ground. And then you're like, wow, you guys are doing some amazing things. And they're like, thanks, Qarie, we appreciate it. I said, no, but I've been with you guys for years, but I could not understand or appreciate it was to this extent. And they're like, Qarie, our worry every day. And I mean, we have these phone calls, and we have all of these meetings all the time. How we're going to have this, and how we're going to do this, and how we're going to do that. And our goal is to impact as many lives as possible, to try
Yeah,
and help
yeah.
as many people as possible.
Well,
And I've seen it.
that's the manifestation of Rahmatul Lil Alameen. We're following that sunnah, in fact, of being mercy unto the world. I'm going to let you go, but maybe just two quick answers, very quick ones, right? Do the people in the camp know where South Africa and about South Africa? Very quick answer.
Oh, they know the South Africans and love the South Africans. They call us their family from South Africa. Oh, ahlan, ahlan, ahlan from South Africa, because Alhamdulillah, they appreciate and can see the support they are getting from the South Africans in South Africa. Oh, they love us to bits, and the kids want to hug us, and the old people want to make so much dua for us. It's amazing. It's amazing. You feel like you're home away from home in a refugee camp somewhere in nowhere.
And gives you a sense of pride that no matter what we have in our country, I mean, you have your flag, and the AMA carries that flag, and this is remarkable what you do. The last thing, so you come back home, put your feet up. I know that, and there'll be a call, if there hasn't already been a call, to say you got the last 15 nights of Ramadan. Where will you be performing Taraweeh, Qarie Yaeesh Ali?
Inshallah, in Westcliff, the last 10 nights, I'll be performing Tarawih there, and all the odd night programs, inshallah.
Okay, there you are. No rest for Qarie Yaeesh Ali, as one would expect when you're endowed with the gifts that you have. Let's leave it at that. Thank you so much for your time. Shukran, Jazakallah. Appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your experiences in those Lebanese camps and the serious issues of the plight of the Palestinians and the plight of the Syrians displaced by human beings meddling with each other. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Jazakallah. Jazakallah for having me. May Allah reward you and preserve you for all your good work that you do.
Inshallah, Ameen, and safe trip back home for you, and warm wishes for the rest of Ramadan. So there you are, Qarie Yaeesh Ali, part of the team from the Africa Muslims Agency, and yeah, there you are. Their impact has been great. I mean, they talk about have a wish, and I think it's a good example of having that wish and making that wish come true for the millions of people that they impact around the continent. Absolutely. We'll do it again tomorrow. It's been fascinating. Love your comments. Love your feedback as always. You can WhatsApp 0617660355. Do follow Salam Media on YouTube. Absolutely do that. You can also comment on the back of any of the social media platforms that you'll find this particular recording. And if you wish to engage me, well, you'll find me on all social media as well. Until tomorrow then, and the Ashraf Garda Show, it's Assalamu Alaikum.